I am Mark Archibald with First Baptist Church, and today with me is Colleen Clausen. Hello, Colleen.
Hi, Mark. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
Great. So one of the things I've been doing lately is having interviews with people that had different experiences over 2020, and some of whom had very positive experiences during 2020. We all know that there's been major barriers and obstacles that have affected us in very negative ways, but there has also been surprising things that have happened as well. And Colleen was one of the people from our church that got to go on a mission trip to Cuba just before everything shut down. And so, Colleen, you've had a lot of ties with Cuba over the past few years, but last year's trip was very significant for you for a number of reasons. Can you give a bit of a timeline of things that happened leading up to that trip in 2020?
Sure. So the first time I went with our church to Cuba was 2016. Then I was fortunate enough to be able to go in 2017 and 2018, and was also planning to go in 2019. I'd become the leader and facilitator of the group in the last few years before that, and had helped train the team for cultural awareness and just all the things that they would need to know in order to be able to have the best learning experience for themselves in the most respectful way for the Cuban people. And it had just been such a positive part of my life. And then at the very end of 2018, as we were just getting our fundraising and all that kind of thing ready to go for February of 2019, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, which came as a slap in the face, I guess, in a way, but it was one of the things that it put on hold was my ability to travel, of course. And so for the whole year of 2018 or 2019, pretty much starting treatment with chemotherapy right at the end of December of 2018, going into the new year, and then surgery and then radiation, and all of that didn't wrap up until August of 2019. So because of that, of course, things look quite different. That year I was still really involved with getting the team ready, and Nevin went along, my husband. We had been asked as a family by Canadian Baptist Ministries, who is the organization that our church is partnered with in the partnership in Cuba. Our family had been asked to go back and spend a longer period of time in Cuba, deepening that partnership and learning more about the things that were going on the ground that you can't learn when you're just there for a week or two at a time. So we had planned to do that in the summer of 2019, but of course we couldn't do that because of my treatment and all of that as well. So going into 2020, we had a lot of great hopes and expectations for it just being a totally great year, putting 2019 in the past. We spent New Year's Eve that year at my parents' place on Kootenay Lake, and had a great celebration with my family. New Year's Day 2020, we woke up and the power was out at mom and dad's. And so with no power, you have no internet, they didn't have phone or internet or anything. So we hung around for a little while and then said, okay, we might as well head back to Lethbridge. So we were just kind of joking along the way, like, oh, okay, 2020, we had such great hopes for you, and you're letting us down on the first day. Got home to Lethbridge and our furnace was broken. And so, again, okay, a second strike against 2020. But we said, okay, 2020, we'll forgive you. The first day wasn't so great, but it's only going uphill from here. So, of course, heading into preparing for the trip for Cuba, all of that was great. The team was great, and we just had such an amazing time there. And so that was the first 2 months of 2020. Not to say that the rest of the year was not positive, because we're not talking about that right now, but there are many, many good things that have continued to happen throughout 2020, even in spite of difficulties, of course.
So I guess you could have warned us what 2020 would have been like, just based on
there's a little bit of foresight there. Yeah.
If only we had listened, we would have been
It was a prophetic word. Yeah.
I know. Oh my goodness. So tell us about, so you have this kind of, not meandering, but it's kind of this long route to get there. Tell us about what the significant highlights of getting back to Cuba in 2020.
So there were a lot of things that I was looking forward to, and I was trying, one of the things that we talk about in the team training is our expectations, and how a lot of times when our expectations aren't in line with what God wants for us, we can experience a lot of disappointment, and especially when we're dealing with a new culture. So I was really trying to, as much as I was looking forward to a lot of things, being, trying to stay realistic and stay focused on what God wanted for us. But within that, I was very, very excited to reconnect with some really good friends. And one of whom I'll show you here on the screen. This is Ray Melly, and she is basically our best friend in Cuba. She's the one who does all of the translation and guiding for all of the groups from CBM that go there. And so the team, knowing my propensity for tears, shall we say, at meaningful times in my life, were fairly certain that I was just going to bawl as soon as I saw Melly. And we had a little ongoing joke that, late at night when we're in Cuba, we're getting a little emotional, and we call it the crying club. And we all sit together in one room and we just let the tears flow from, like, the emotions of the day or that kind of thing. So Melly, going into this as well, was fully expecting we were all going to bawl. So I said to the team, no, not going to happen. I'm totally fine. I'm grounded. I'm okay. So we get off the plane, and I was the last one to go through because I just wanted to make sure that the team got through okay. And since my Spanish skills were fairly decent, I could communicate with customs officials and that kind of thing. So sent the rest of the team through. So they're all waiting out there for me to come through the airport and see Melly. So I did. I'm all fine. We go to it. You don't even believe that I was fine. You're one of those people.
No, I do. I just find it funny that people are just so voyeuristic about your emotional reactions. That's what I find amusing right now.
So Millie and I, go towards each other, and she gives me a big hug, and I'm looking at everyone and see, I'm fine. And then she just, like, those hugs where people just hang on. See, now I'm gonna start crying. Where people just hang on that extra bit longer.
Yeah.
So she did that, and I was like, I was fine. I was not going to cry. I was saying this to her until you just hugged me just too long. So anyways, so that's Melly and I right after she hugged me just a little bit too long. And we probably both have a few tears in our eyes. But so connecting with people, because during the time being in Cuba, but also in the time in between, I've really tried to maintain the friendships the best I can through messaging and that kind of thing. So that was the number one highlight. Being able to communicate as well as I did in Spanish was surprising to me because I had worked hard at it. I took a communication class at the university here in Lethbridge, and that really helped. But it was very tiring, but it was it was a highlight for me because it showed me that my efforts were paying off, and I could understand a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I was able to express maybe deeper thoughts than I expected myself to be able to as well. That was another highlight. The way the trip was itself, we got to go across Cuba instead of focusing just in one area. So whereas in a way it felt a little bit like spreading ourselves thin, it also allowed us to see some of the uniqueness of the churches and communities across the country, and at least make kind of first introductions, first steps in getting to know some other people. It was one thing I was a little nervous about in going back, because so many Cuban people had been praying for me and really keeping in touch and up to date on my cancer experiences. I felt like maybe they were going to be a little too smothering in their attention to me, and I didn't want that. And I'm glad that I was treated like a normal person. Sometimes they were a little overprotective. Like if I tried to move a piano or something, they were like, no, 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 leave that to the others. I was like, come on, come on. So, but I really appreciated how the whole team was really valued, and and everyone had the experiences of feeling special for who they were, and that's a really one of the reasons why we keep going back and why it's great to always have new people as part of the team as well as people who've been there before. It's really cool for those of us who've spent more time there and been involved in more teams to be able to see the way that the newer first time team members are just brought right in and made part of the family as well. So and I guess one last highlight was because our family couldn't go in September or in the summer of 2019, we had then planned to go in the summer of 2020, not knowing, of course, that there was going to be a global pandemic. And so we made a lot of concrete plans and got a much better idea of what that time would be like and will be like when we have the opportunity to do that whenever it's safe and appropriate to do so. So that was another great thing about February, the first few weeks of February of 2020.
Yeah, we're really glad you got to go back again. It sounds amazing to be able to have that, not the disruption part, but to have a disruption and then to still be able to go back and experience it again. I think that's
it really did. It felt like part of the healing process.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, because being in Cuba before that was always a time that I felt very well, very physically. I always have lots of energy, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Like I feel very well when I'm in Cuba. So to come back to that after putting the cancer stuff in the past, of course, it's never completely in the past, but
Yeah.
That active treatment part of it, it really did help me in the moving forward and the feeling well.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So, I mean, we're in the pandemic right now. Cuba's in the pandemic. What is going on with Cuba at this point with the pandemic, and what can we do to support them at this time?
So unfortunately, they're having a real resurgence of COVID cases in Cuba now, as we are. Their second wave is way worse than the first was. They were able to get down to 0 cases early in the summer. And then the government decided, like we did here, it's time to open things up. And so they opened airports, and it's not only tourist traffic, but Cuban people coming back from other places that they had been. Medical brigades, that's one of the things that Cuba is known for, is sending doctors to help in different parts of the world. So when they returned to Cuba, there was more cases, more COVID coming in that way. So now they're really back in under tight restrictions, but with that time in the meantime, being able to live a lot more normally in a lot of ways. So it is quite stressful for them, the restrictions in, just the ability to, it's difficult anyways to travel from place to place in Cuba, but with those restrictions, and also they're in a real time of economic uncertainty, because as of January 1st, the government made a lot of changes with their currency. They're trying to unify their different forms of currency into one. So that has caused just a lot of instability as that's all being worked out. And with the ongoing difficult relationship that Cuba has with the United States, that's still causing quite a burden on people. So as far as what we can do, our connection with Cuba is through Canadian Baptist Ministries. They did fund a COVID-19 relief project there earlier this year that we contributed to during the thank offering. But there are ongoing
projects that CBM is funding in Cuba. So those are different farming and family support and training of pastors and different things like that that are ongoing, and is our best avenue as far as concrete or monetary support. The Cubans are a very prayerful people, the Cuban Christians that we've come in contact with, and they are willing and able and happy to pray for our needs, and really appreciative of us doing that, but also letting them know that we're praying for them and what we're praying, and because they really do believe and have seen the power of prayer in their lives.
Yeah, and if you want to look at Canadian Baptist Ministries' work in Cuba, you can go to cbmin.org, cbmin.org, and you'll be able to find information there. We also did an interview previously. If you go to our interview page or on our YouTube channel, we did an interview with Adrian Gardner as well about projects in Cuba. So that's available too. So yeah, so we want to be prayerful and be in prayer and be supportive of our partners in Cuba for sure. And I know it's been a great ongoing relationship that our church has with the Cuban church, and I know it's also a lot of that has been facilitated through you. So we're very, very grateful for that ongoing relationship. So, right. Well, thank you for taking the time today. I really appreciate the update and hearing some good news from 2020 and some good healing news from 2020. So we're grateful for that as well. All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you.